Coming here, do something. Hector, please, because I know okay.
Good evening. Let me call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Texas Southmost College District. Present today is Board Member Mr. Eduardo Campirano, Board Member Mr. Roman Dino Esparza, Board Member Ms. Rosemary Breedlove, Dr. Robles and Mr. Oliveira are underway, and Ms. Zimmerman is not here today. We also have President Julia Garcia. And so at this time, before we begin the agenda items, I'm going to have Dr. Garcia say some words.
I'd like to take a moment to introduce a very important team of our university, a newly formed chess team, only about 4 years old, has claimed some bit of notoriety in recent weeks. And we're very, very proud of these young men, of their coaches, and of those folks who have helped launch them on this wonderful path. And so, Dr. Hilda Silva, are you here with us tonight? Would you begin the honors, please?
Good evening. I have many blessings in this job, but one is, what's very significant tonight is the honor and the ability to introduce the winners of the National Collegiate Championship Tournament, our very own team. And we have 3 of our team members tonight. As you know, UTB won the championship. UT Dallas came in second.
Was this a state championship?
This was the National Collegiate.
Thank you.
National Collegiate Championship Tournament. You may recall they won state, and then they went back, and they took nationals in a very impressive way, and we're very proud of them. So I'm going to introduce the team captain, Eric Vallerino, who will then introduce the rest of the team. Eric?
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for having us here. As Dr. Garcia and Dr. Silva mentioned, you
can stand straight up. It'll pick up your voice.
Thank you. We won the national championship at Houston. It was a great event. There was quite a bit of competition. It was quite difficult, honestly, but we came through. It was definitely a very good event. And here we have a couple of our team members. I have a couple of my team members as well. Tony Espino. He is originally from Brownsville. He's been playing since elementary, in Gonzales Elementary, then Oliveira Middle School, and Hanna High School. And Vincent Flores. He's also originally from Brownsville and been playing since elementary. So, well, we're here. If you have any questions, please.
Eric, one of the things that you might want to know about Eric is that Eric was also the student who helped us found the chess team. He and Clemente Rendon, a student who was at UT Dallas but had been originally from Brownsville, and I met in the office one day and shook hands and decided that we were on our way to establish a chess team. We didn't know what that meant exactly, but that we were going to try and do it. Well, Clemente Rendon ended up going to UT Dallas and becoming one of their chess champions. So through the connection with Clemente and with Eric's persistence and his chess ability, we began to do what we had intended. The first year, this team of about 5 young men played without a coach, and they came in third, as I recall, in the state chess championship. I met with them afterwards, and we had lunch together, and I said, I mean, you all have done extraordinary to be doing so well, and even without a coach, and what is it that we could do to help support your team better? And they said, ma'am, we could sure use a coach. Well, of course, any team of course, needs one. So then we set about the search process for a coach. I know, is our chess coach here with us this evening? He's not here. Roman Natacheskov is our chess coach. He has been a wonderful addition to the family at our university. He is a grandmaster in his own right and has taught our team a great deal and continues to teach them a great deal. He believes that the potential that they can reach is only yet slightly surfaced, and they have a long way yet to go. Another member of our team just showed up, I see, and that's Timur Garib. And Timur actually went to the National Collegiate Chess Tournament and was undefeated in the tournament. He is only in his 4th month in the United States. And what is interesting about Timur is how he discovered us and the chess program. The story that I heard from him the other night was that his sister was trying to figure out how to get him out of their country and into the United States and into a good college. And so she looked for universities with chess programs and on the website and found UT Brownsville, and then connected with us, and he was scholarshiped, and so has now joined our world. From Uzbekistan in August to sitting on the back of a convertible for the Christmas parade with chess trophies, waving to folks, he's come a long way, and we're very, very glad to have Timur with us. This team went then to nationals in Houston the same night, same day that the Longhorns were playing in Houston. So there was a lot of burnt orange that night in Houston, and most folks thought it was for the other game. But we knew that, in fact, it was for our chess team, and we were not subtle about telling folks that we knew that. Our team went for their first round, all 5 men, and won. Everyone went on their second round and won every one. By this time, we were being called the juggernauts of the tournament, and UTB team very well respected. So by about, well, the coach told me that Friday night he knew we had won. In fact, the tournament was not over till Sunday. But it was tough going, as Timur says. And Timur, you might tell us a little bit. That it was not easy to be undefeated in that tournament, was it?
Yeah, although many players didn't have like high ratings, and my rating was much higher than like the average rating of other guys. But there is some. It's like students don't have too much time to play and compete in different competitions, and thus they play with each other, and their ratings are not very high. So you cannot underestimate them. And in one of the games, I sacrificed a pawn, got worse position, and finally, I struggled to win. I struggled, and I spent all 3 hours to defeat my opponent. So in each game, I struggled to win, and it was and most guys wanted to offer some competition, and playing like with the grandmaster, they tried to show their best and try to win. So it was not the easiest tournament I played. So I had to spend all the time and to put all my efforts into winning a single game. So it was a quite a strong tournament, and it was also very inspiring that all other guys, our team members, winning in each round. They're showing positive results, and of course I tried to, as one of the leaders of the team, I tried to show my best and try to help our team to get some advantage to secure our first position. So finally I managed to do that and took the first place and won all the 7 games, and I contributed to the victory of our
Absolutely.
university. Okay, thanks.
I've got a question for you, gentlemen. I'm not real familiar with how the chess competition works, because when I was growing up, I don't remember having organized chess competition in elementary or even high school. So, you have 5 members on your team. How does the competition work? I know it's an individual game. How does the point system work, and how do you achieve that? And after you explain that, tell me what grade levels you are in so I can anticipate how well we're going to do next year.
So the tournament consists of, this particular tournament, it was by grade levels. So all 12th graders played against each other, all 11th graders, and so on. And all collegiate players played against each other. There were no sophomore, junior, senior standings. Now, in this event, for instance, the top 3 scores from every team are taken into account to determine the team score. So there were 7 rounds total, and a number of over 30 players in the tournament, collegiate players from different universities, even across the nation. There was representation from Ohio State University, for instance, Kansas State, and so on. So we all had to play against different players from all over the nation. Timur, for instance, got first place with 7 points. I got 5th place with 4.5 points. And my teammate Alejandro Nieto, who is not present today, got 4th place with 5 points. So those were the top 3 scores from our team. So that basically determines the team competition, or how many points we achieve as a team. And individually as well, we get ranked. So 1st, 5th, and 4th. And I am so sorry, what was your second question?
What grade levels you all are in,
Yes,
so we can anticipate next year's?
So Timur is just a freshman. He just arrived 4 months ago. He's our newest player. Tony's on his sophomore. He's sophomore standing. Oh, by the way, he's 17 years old. Timur, 17 years old.
And he has a ranking in the chess.
In the chess world, yeah, he's an international grandmaster. That is the highest ranking you can possibly achieve in chess. Besides a world champion. It's like being.
It's still early. I mean, yeah.
It's like being an NBA star, I guess, if you were to compare it with basketball to get to the NBA level. Tony is a sophomore, and he's on his 3rd semester. Vince is a sophomore as well, and I'm a senior. I will be graduating in May.
From what major?
Biophysics.
Thank you.
I'd like to, one comment. And really, Eric, I think this is not only to congratulate the team, and I'm glad you mentioned the 5th member who's not here, but he should also be recognized. But for you, you're a senior. I can't think of no crowning achievement to what you've started here than to end your career with a national championship. So to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Silva. Thanks to the coaches and to Vince Solis, because Vince has worked very, very hard to nurture this team and to accompany them on all their trips. And we have just hired Rusty Harwood, who is going to help us as assistant coach and help us connect with the schools.
He's our recruiter. He knows everything.
No, he's actually this week recruiting in Ciudad Victoria a young woman who has won the Mexican championships for a couple of years. But our goal is to also provide for chess camps for kids, and that's really Rusty's expertise. So thank you again.
Dr. Garcia, nothing gives me more as a committee member, as a member of this administration, to a sense of feeling of satisfaction and of pride to have our chess, people go out and win a national event like this. And, you see other cities where they recognize their local heroes. Example, you go to Refugio and you drive in and you see home of Nolan Ryan. And you go to Robstown and you'll see home of
Upshaw Brothers.
Upshaw Brothers, Gene Upshaw.
And Mission,
You go to Mission and
Coach Landry.
yeah, and so forth. San Benito, home of Freddie Fender. So, where I'm going with this is nothing would give this community a greater sense of pride than to have some water tower on this campus say home of the national UTV TSC collegiate chess champions. And so I'd like to see if we know anyone that can have influence at PUB that might just give us some direction as to what it would take to do something like that and to paint an announcement of that type. And I don't know if it can be done, but I'm certainly willing to try to see how that works. And so I'm looking at you, Mr. Campirano.
David knows everybody.
I think it would be nice if we were to look into that, Dr. Renaud, and try to see, well, why not? Let's see what it takes to maybe put something like that on our tower. We've got the scorpion on our tower, I think, or is it UTV TSC?
It's not
the logo.
Scorpion, it's not
the logo.
is, yes, sir.
And so why couldn't we put home of the national collegiate chess champions? So now that I got Mr. Campirano squirming, without any commitment on his part, of course, I'd like to see if that's possible. If we can look into that and see what it would cost to do that and what it would take to do, the powers to be to approve something like that.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's an excellent idea, but if we can't convince PUB to do it, I think maybe that we should look into doing something, maybe some kind of sign or something we could put up on campus.
Or billboard entering town.
Billboard entering town.
I will tell you that I met with a superintendent and had this conversation, because the real success here is that the same day that we won, so did, was it Paredes?
Paredes
kindergartners came in first in the nation.
Yeah.
And at that same tournament, Canales came in, Garden Park, Victoria Heights, Vela, Oliveira, Hannah, and Porter. Hudson. I don't think I've left anyone out. So when you look at the cumulative effect that has, and 4 of the young men on our team started playing in elementary school here in Brownsville. So I think it is the city's great success, and that the city somehow should become branded as the home of national chess champions. And the superintendent is in agreement, and we're setting up a meeting with the mayor to have that discussion as well. So we would appreciate your support in any way possible to make that.
There it is. It's already, the ball's already in a row. So, so congratulations, chess champions. And we have high expectations on campus, so we want to see you again next year for the new generation.
That's right.
The freshmen, with another belt under notch on your belt. So congratulations on behalf of the board. We're proud of you. Thank you.
That's all of the announcements right now, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, item 1 is approval of the minutes of the meeting of November the 17th. I ask for a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion is made by Ms. Breedlove,
I'll second the motion.
The second motion made by Mr. Esparza. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None. Motion carries. Item 2, speakers to agenda, Mary? No speakers? Okay, we move to the board briefing, item 3, on mountains and of the monsoon. And that's Saderas?
Sandish.
Sandish. Dr. Jose Martin. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Madam President. I read from the mission statement of our institution. UTV TSC advances economic and social development, enhances the quality of life, fosters respect for the environment, provides for personal enrichment, and expands knowledge. Fostering respect for the environment is more than a formal statement. It is a core determination that has guided the efforts of a lot of valuable folks here ever since a group of visionaries did the inconceivable and set up our institution as guardian of the environment in a unique but vulnerable spot on the Sierra de Guatemala. That spot is, of course, Rancho del Cielo. Few people here are more closely associated with that effort than Professor Larry Love, whom we all know as a rather multifaceted individual and professional that tirelessly worked on the mountains and in Brownsville historic structures. In addition, Mr. Love is uniquely a teacher, a mentor, and a discoverer and nurturer of talent. All of those strands come together on a presentation today by Professor Larry Love and one of his and our star and talented graduates, Mr. Sandesh Kadur. I could go on forever, but I will not try to steal thunder. Instead, I present to you Mr. Larry Love, Professor Larry Love.
Thank you. I don't have my box of slides as I usually do. I'm still trying to work with PowerPoint. And sometimes it actually works, although I wondered what I would do if it didn't. I might have to do a soft shoe. It's a cliche when you talk about journeys in life, but sometimes there actually are journeys that take you in places you least expect to go. And what I'm going to lead in is a series of events that took us to places that we never dreamed we'd go. Actually, this is a journey that took us to the other side of the globe, and it began in 1995. It started at Rancho del Cielo, sitting around the dinner table. There were 12 students. 12 students from South Texas and one new student who had just transferred here from India, a 17-year-old student by the name of Sandesh Kadur. As often happens at El Cielo, we have our monsoon season and the rains fall on the roof, and you're sitting there and you talk about the rains and what's lurking out in the forest. And so the conversation quickly went between monsoon forests in southwestern India that Sandesh knew and El Cielo. And back and forth the conversation went. And so finally, it ended with a dream that started. 2 years later, 20 students, I guess I ought to start this. There's just some good pictures to introduce you to El Cielo and the monsoon forests that are there. 2 years later, 20 students had earned $30,000 selling at bake sales and car washes and took off on a 3-week trip to southwestern India. Well, they went to the usual places, the Taj Mahal, but also to these ancient forest temples that were lost in the forest. And that was the part that was really so fascinating and wonderful to us. Well, at the same time, as we were getting ready for this trip, we were thinking about what the next film project was going to be. We had done a film on El Cielo that was on PBS. We had done one on South Texas. And we decided that maybe the next thing would be to do something on southwestern India. No one had done a film on that area. The person we had worked with for years, John Bax, agreed to go and work with this new student, Sandesh Kadur, so he could learn cinematography from a pro. Well, it happens that 2 or 3 days before the trip, John couldn't go. So rather than, and of course, he wasn't going to be sending his equipment. So rather than canceling the trip, we ordered a digital camera 2 days before the trip, and Norman Richard finagled getting his ticket changed from John Bax's name to Norman Richard. And Sandesh and Norman left on the morning flight for the 40-hour flight to India. Well, the camera had arrived shortly before the flight, so Sandesh's learning experience started there. On the 40-hour flight, he somehow learned to use the camera and began the process of developing all the images that you're going to see now. So I'd like to introduce Sandesh Kadur.
Well, that was very interesting because as I boarded the flight, it was basically, I had the instruction manual for the camera as my reading material. So as I shuffled through the pages to try to figure out how to turn on this digital camcorder, I'd never worked with a video camera before. And it was an interesting process to start learning how to use it with the instruction manual as I started reading it on my flight to India. But as we journey across the ocean to India, let me take a step back into how it was to me as a student coming over here to the Western Hemisphere, having grown up almost entirely in the East. One of the things that really struck me coming here was about what the Western perception was of India as a country. And one of the most common Western views of India is that it's a country of overpopulation and poverty. Well, of course, India is certainly a country with a tremendous population, over 1 billion people. If you mention the word Africa, most people think about lions and giraffes and elephants and an incredible land of wildlife. But that's not the first image that comes to mind when you talk about India. If it's not population or poverty, the only other image that people here seem to think about when it comes to India was perhaps the Taj Mahal. And although these are two interesting, lasting images of India, I really wanted to change that perception to an India that I grew up in, the India of Rudyard Kipling, of tigers, Rikki Tikki Tavi, and Peafowl in the mist. So what would I do to change this general perception of people? Well, as we all know, television reaches a big audience. So we decided to produce a documentary and show it to the world. Well, two very simple and very bold statements. But at the same time, as Mr. Richard told me that Mrs. Warburton always said, ignorance is bliss. And I had no idea how to make a documentary. I didn't know about the hurdles and the arduous nature of the task. So I decided, even if John Bax was not going to be on this trip, I would start doing it anyway. It was going to be a 4-month summer project. And that also included leading the Gorgeous Science Society members on a 21-day trip throughout India. So there began a journey through India, a learning process. Now, I was always bad in math, but I never knew that 4 months would equal 4 years. And during those 4 years, I learned the incredible task of filming, editing, and writing the story. And another thing that we took on was a subject that was probably a little too large in scope for a first-time summer project of 4 months. Now, you see the west coast of India, the area highlighted in red is the Western Ghats, a 1,000-mile-long mountain range that stretches along the western seaboard of India. These mountains are also known as the mountains of the monsoon because of the tremendous amount of rainfall that comes in from the Arabian Sea. Now, the Western Ghats is known as a biodiversity hotspot. Oops, sorry about that. And one of the things that makes it a biodiversity hotspot is the fact that it's lost almost 70% of its natural vegetation. And this makes it one of those regions in the world that are in critical need of conservation. And so our subject matter, though large, was the need to do a documentary was very imminent and was required, because there was nothing of this sort that had been done in that region of India. It was a very little known part of the world. And the Western Ghats is one of the ranges that supports, there's no other mountain range, few other mountain ranges in the world supports as great a human population as does the Western Ghats. Its ancient Sanskrit name is the Sahyadris, and Sahyadris means the benevolent mountains. So these mountains give life to the entire Deccan peninsular part of India. And so the quarries that I had to follow and find in the Western Ghats were species like king cobras, Nilgiri langurs, all inhabiting a beautiful, magical landscape of the Western Ghats. One of the unique things about the Western Ghats is that it has a number of species that are endemic, that means not found anywhere else in the world except here. The Nilgiri langur is one such species. Another one is the Nilgiri tar, a species of mountain goat that there's hardly 3,000 of them left in the world, and this is the only mountain range that they survive in. But this species is also a flagship species in that it symbolizes conservation success in India, and that became the poster for our documentary. And so while I was juggling my academics with chasing wildlife in India, after about 4 years, we finally managed to put together a documentary, and we named it Sahyadris, Mountains of the Monsoon. And this documentary, a voice that many of us are very familiar with over here, a voice that all of us have heard, and that particular voice carried this documentary as it traveled many parts of the world, winning one award after another. And eventually the documentary was picked up by Discovery Channel and was broadcast to millions of people in India. It was one of the highest rated shows on Discovery, and that voice was none other than Dr. Garcia, who learned Indian English very quickly. And right now we'll watch a short clip from the documentary.
Not far beyond the timeless waters of the Arabian Sea lies a range of mountains along the Malabar coast of southern India. These are the Western Ghats, or Sahyadris, mountains of the monsoon. Ancient realms of jungle and rain.
Well, that's a short clip from the documentary. And so sometimes you think that you've come to the end of the journey and you only realize that you're at the very beginning. And soon after the completion of this documentary, we started another project, which was to do a coffee table book about the same region. So that's the coffee table book about the Western Ghats. And these tools, the book and the film, serve as invaluable tools for conservation, and they have become a resource for people in the region and scientists coming to that area. They rely on these products to learn more about this region. And one of the things that happened most recently was that this work was recognized by the Prime Minister of India as well as the President. And for us, the most important part of all of this work was we realized that we've been able to connect not only at the grassroots level, but also at the highest levels of administration. and that has given us great confidence in the work that we've done. And this has reinforced our belief that imagery can be a powerful tool to influence policy and mold public perception. And here I have another short clip about the documentary. Although the Western Ghats is one biodiversity hotspot, there are 34 other hotspots of biodiversity. One of them is very close to here, and that is El Cielo in northeastern Mexico. And one of the most wonderful parts about coming here to South Texas and studying here at the university was coming to an area that opened my eyes to a totally new hemisphere and brought me in close contact to a place like El Cielo, a magical place of incredible biodiversity like the Western Ghats, and bringing me here to South Texas. And now we are currently working on various projects that are very locally relevant, and working on a project called the Treasures of the Rio Grande Delta, wherein we have videos that have been produced that are in schools throughout South Texas. And as we all realize, the image has become a powerful tool for conservation. And there is no other quote more apt than this: in the end, we will conserve only what we love only what we understand, and we understand only what we are taught. And as an education system, this motto stands very strongly in everything that we do. Thank you very much. And we do have a copy of the documentary if the board members haven't seen them. There is a gift from us for all of you to watch over Christmas.
Thank you.
Now, you talked about how it was shown in India on the Discovery Channel, but has it premiered here in the United States, and will it premiere in the United States?
Well, the broadcast marketing world is quite an intricate web. But in the U.S., it's been shown at various film festivals, which draw lots of crowds, and we've premiered the film here in Brownsville and various places. But it hasn't been broadcast on television because the American market seems to require something with a little bit more of the jaws and claws effect.
We can get David to call his friend P. Diddy. Maybe he can help.
What was the main similarity between the region in India and Rancho del Cielo area? What is it that you saw that reminded you so much of the connection between both territories?
Oh, I mean, it's so. When I first came here, all I could talk about when I went to El Cielo was how similar the Western Ghats of India are to this mountain range. Everything from the vegetation to the clouds and how the clouds roll into the forest. Many parts of it, I mean, they look very similar, but when you study the biodiversity within, it's totally different. So they do bear a striking resemblance, but underneath that fact, there is a lot of different biodiversity.
All the footage in here was shot by you from this camera you learned to use on an airplane?
Yeah. I won't bear to. I won't put you through the first couple of hours of my footage, and you don't see my first couple of hours. So
This is amazing. It really is.
I mean, the little we saw is,
It's just
it's very professional, and you were a quick learner.
it's been quite a journey.
What was your major?
I somehow ended up getting a degree in biology.
Now, Sandesh is very humble, he's a most articulate and profoundly smart and extraordinary young individual. He is, we were very lucky to have him part of our world. He has taught us as much as anyone here has taught him. He has exposed a whole different part of the world to our students and our faculty, and has taken what is taught here and what is learned here and already applied it in extraordinary ways in India. Beyond that, Sandesh now has agreed to headquarter here. And so this is the first and the second chapter of what I believe is going to be a long and wonderful journey together, both for Sandesh and for this university of mutual support and success. And so we're very honored, Sandesh, that you are here and that you have had such wonderful success and that we are able to be part of your journey. Thank you. Thank you, Larry. Very much.
Thank you.
We thank you for the gift of your ability to capture just the little bit we saw of this. But the book, I have your table book, and it's just absolutely spectacular. You have a real gift. Obviously, we know that you're extremely talented, but you're sharing it with the world, and we appreciate that so much. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you so much.
I hope it inspires you to take a journey to India sometime.
That was the
Already
next topic.
inspired. I'm inspired already. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, sir. So now we move from the exotic mountains of India to the Business Affairs Partnership Committee. Mr. Campirano will report on that.
And this journey began. The Business Affairs Partnership Committee met on December the 8th, and two items for discussion and consideration. The first item was the Texas Southmost College District Annual Financial Report, an audit for the period ending August 31st, 2005. The committee heard the report. Dr. Renaud and staff, Melba was present. Mr. Juan Mendoza with the audit firm of Long & Chilton was in attendance. At this time, I'd like to call on Dr. Renaud to present this item.
Thank you, Mr. Campirano, members of the board. As you know, as a public institution, Texas Southmost College is held to high standards for the way in which the public's money is managed and accounted for. We are fortunate to have a very competent and professional staff in our comptroller's office that ensures these standards are met. But we don't stop there. For many years, the trustees have directed that the district be audited annually by an outside and independent firm. We have just completed that process for this year. It is a process that requires many hours of labor over several months. This year's financial review and audit was conducted by the firm of Long Chilton, as Mr. Campirano stated, and Mr. Juan Mendoza, the lead auditor, is here this evening representing the firm. The importance to the district of these annual financial reviews and audits cannot be overstated. Through this process, a professional and independent auditor comes in and looks over every aspect of how the district conducts its business. And as a result, the community can be assured that the district's business is being conducted in an above-board manner and in keeping with recognized business standards. Long Chilton has submitted this year's audit report, and we are very pleased and proud to inform you that the district has again earned an unqualified opinion. What is more, there were no findings in the audit and no management letter. I want to thank Ms. Melba Sanchez, our district comptroller, and her staff for all that they do throughout the year that allows us to earn these high marks. Also, I want to thank Vice President Martinez and her staff in the UTB Business Affairs Division Their cooperation and assistance is essential in this process. And finally, thanks to Long Chilton for a very thorough and professional review of our finances. I know the trustees may have questions, Mr. Gonzalez, but first I'd like to recognize Mr. Mendoza and see if he has any comments to add.
Mr. Campirano, we were, of course, together at the BAPC meeting, and we discussed, and David, Mr. Oliveira, we discussed thoroughly with Mr. Mendoza the particulars of this audit, and I don't have any questions, but Dr. Robles, have you had a chance to look at the audit?
Yes.
You have any questions to ask from Mr. Starsa, Ms. Breedlove?
I had a very thorough debriefing with Dr. Renaud, but I was just curious as to some of the comments that came up at the meeting that you all had, if you want to share some of those.
Well, I think one of the biggest things is just kind of looking at the balance sheet, seeing some of the increases, and you obviously see the impact of what the bond issues have had in terms of what the district is dealing with. Obviously, those will change as the bond projects begin to materialize and you begin to expending those funds. I think one of the things that I'd like to say, especially to the staff, Melba Sanchez, and to the balance of the staff, and having to deal in a world where these kinds of reports are particularly important. I think not to underscore the fact that there was no management letter issued this year, in terms that essentially means that a management letter, to many respects, is a tool for management to use, that it doesn't necessarily mean that there's findings or that there's issues that could materially jeopardize the financial standing of this institution. But what it does do, it does offer an outside view, and it does offer someone to come in independently and maybe make some suggestions on improvement. The fact that the auditor chose not to issue a management letter, I think, is an outstanding accomplishment for our staff and all of those who participate, and I think they really need to be commended. And I don't think that little issue needs to be underscored, because it is significant. And I think that knowing the reputation of Long and Chilton, and knowing that any audit firm worth their salt is going to be looking for making comments and providing improvements. And while there may have been discussions, there was nothing that required documenting those discussions. And I think that is very commendable. Certainly want to commend all of those involved in that effort. But overall, we went through the balance sheet, we went through the footnotes, we went through all of the comments presented by Mr. Mendoza. There really isn't anything material or anything that is in the audit that jumps out at you, Dino. It is a very, I think, very good, very solid, to some degree, very routine report. But that's good. In this case, it's good to have routine, and our routine is to have very high standards, as Dr. Renaud stated. So the committee did discuss it, as mentioned, but both Mr. Oliveira as well as Chairman Gonzalez were present. The committee favorably reviewed the report, and certainly if a motion is in order, I would move that we accept the report for the audit period ending August 31st, 2005 as presented.
Second. Motion made by Mr. Campirano, second by Mr. Oliveira. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Campirano.
The second item for discussion was the tuition and fee proposal. Also in your package, Ms. Rosemary Martinez made a presentation on the tuition and fee proposal for fiscal years 2006 through 2008. The proposed tuition and fee increases will allow UTB TSC to continue to meet its academic goals of increasing student services, developing programs, and acquiring faculty. Rosemary, along with Dr. Ruth Ann Ragland, will make the presentation on the tuition and fee proposal. And at this time, I would like them to approach the podium.
Chairman Gonzalez, board members, and Dr. Garcia, good evening. Rosemary and I will present to you tonight information on our tuition and fee requests for 2007-2008. But first, I want to give you some background and information on our process of dealing with a very complex and sometimes painful topic. The UT system asked all campuses to develop a tuition and fee policy for a 2-year period. This is a change from past years when we developed requests for just 1 year at a time. It was also a change from the way we've done things in the past insofar as the committees were concerned. In the past, we have had the Student Services Fee Committee handle all fees and tuition matters. This time, in order to get a broader input from the campus and to follow the procedure that other UT campuses are doing, we added a second tuition and fee committee. And this one was appointed as a 20-member committee by the provost to develop the policy. During the month of November, we met about 10 times and discussed issues and worked on the policy. We had a lot of input from our campus community. We had presentations made to the Academic and Staff Senates, the Student Government Association. We also had input from the Dean's Council, the Deans and Chairs, and the Provost Council. And we held 3 public hearings to gather input from our community. The UT system had asked that we consider 5 core principles as we formulated our recommendations, and I'll just list these for you. We had subcommittees working on each of these, and they made their input to the main committee. They concerned cost savings, the smallest possible increases, tuition and fee predictability, supporting strategic goals, and financial aid services. And Rosemary will give you some detail about the various aspects of the policy that we're presenting to you this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Ragland. One of the most important factors in determining what the committee would recommend as the tuition policy for 2007 and 2008 was how many dollars would be needed to support campus needs. We've basically sustained an enrollment growth over the last couple of years that has been in double digits, with the last enrollment increase being at near 15%. It was about 14.5% for the fall of 2005. And so taking those trends and evaluating what kind of increases to the budget would be necessary, we determined that in the next 2 years we would have to add 33 faculty members to accommodate a 4% growth. We also know that we have new programs that are coming online, including a couple of new doctorate degrees that we've received approval from the coordinating board to begin development for. And we also know that we need support staff to be able to provide those services to students. We also know that universities are experiencing increases in utilities, as we all are at home. And we also know that there's a need to set aside scholarship dollars to be able to fund the different programs and initiatives that we have at the state level. And so as a result of that, the committee went through and evaluated all of the different fees that were being brought forward from the different units from across the campus. And so we're recommending increases in these compulsory fee areas. Compulsory fees are those fees that every student on campus has to pay. The first increase here is an increase to the library fee of $1. This is to extend library hours. That was really high on the list of student needs. They want to be able to spend more time at the library. The second increase is to increase the advising fee to provide additional advisors. It's important to students to be appropriately advised. Students are demanding that they be able to see advisors on an as-needed basis, and this fee will allow us to do this. The computer use fee of $1 will allow us to provide an e-portfolio for students. Basically what that means is that students will have a virtual hard drive available to them on which they can maintain all kinds of information and projects and works that they might accumulate as students here. The student services fee of $1, along with the athletic fee of $1 right below that, will allow us to not only extend student services, health, activities, student activities, and so forth, but will also allow us to increase the amount of athletic programs and to actually roll out 2 new programs in the area of soccer. Incidental fees are fees that students pay for if they avail themselves of the services. The print fee, which is being recommended that we increase from 5 to 10 cents, really is just simply to recover the costs associated with maintaining leased copy equipment and printer equipment throughout the campus. The nursing exam fee are fees that we have to pay to examination companies, and so we pass those costs on to the students. Physics fee would add 2 new courses to the list of programs. In the industrial technology area, we have various lab fees that are being proposed. In the area of the graduate school would like to maintain the advising fee at $25, so they're asking that their advising be separated from the rest of the campus. They believe that graduate students would require less advising and that advising could occur at this rate. The graduate school is also requesting that the tuition differential, and the differential refers to the difference between undergraduate tuition and graduate tuition. They're requesting that amount be increased from $19 to $30 per semester credit hour to allow for the addition of 19 additional graduate assistantships. We added some, actually it's 11 additional graduate assistantships. We added 19 in this year. This assistantship allows students to, for an academic year, earn dollars at about $10,000 a year, the academic year, and this fee increase will allow us to add 11 additional graduate assistantships. We think it's important to the doctorate programs that we're rolling out and to be able to provide research opportunities to students that are participating in numerous programs throughout the campus. Part of the work also required that we look at how we can make getting a college education affordable for students. In this proposal, we are proposing discounted time slots for certain classes, and so if you want to take an early morning class, you get discounted tuition. If you want to take a middle of the afternoon class, you get discounted tuition. So we're looking at a time slot from between 12 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We're looking at a 7 a.m. time slot, and we're also looking at Saturday time slots. The 7 a.m. and Saturday time slots will be discounted at 25%. All of the other high traffic time slots will be discounted at 10%. We're also setting aside some dollars to provide for book scholarships. We're encouraging students to take advantage of flat rate tuition. Right now, students can take 15 plus semester credit hours, excuse me, and not pay any more than what it costs for 15 semester credit hours. And this fall semester, which was the first one that did that, we had approximately 600 students to the tune of $140,000 take advantage of flat rate tuition. We're proposing to continue flat rate tuition at 15 hours for 2007, and we'll drop it down to 14 hours for 2008. That's encouraging students to take more hours and not have to pay the additional tuition. The Be On Time program is a state program that allows students to qualify for guaranteed student loans, and if they qualify and meet the criteria of the program, they can have loan forgiveness. And part of the work that occurred during this tuition committee work was to evaluate the impact of Be On Time on students. And it's very interesting, Ruth Ann, yes. If students go to school at 6 semester credit hours, over the time that it takes them to get a bachelor's degree, they would pay just a little over $25,000. If they're going and taking 15 semester credit hours, then that number drops to about $18,000. But if they take 18 plus hours and meet the rest of the criteria of Be On Time, the cost of a bachelor's degree literally drops down to about $1,000, and if they stay within 3 semester credit hours of their degree program, they get a $1,000 tuition rebate. So in essence, they can get a bachelor's degree for free. So one of the initiatives of this tuition policy committee will be to market and make sure that as many students as possible become informed about the Be On Time program, and there will be different subgroups on campus looking at cohorts and managing that effort so that we can encourage students to get their bachelor's degrees at the least cost possible to them. And that basically concludes our presentation, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. Dr. Robles?
Yes.
I guess that all the universities across the state are having a tuition increase, so we're not
Yes.
the only ones.
No.
And with the new way of running things, each campus or each university is being allowed to basically create their own tuition rate and estimate how much it should be at. And what about future increases beyond 2007? 2008. How is that going to be worked in?
Dr. Robles, even with the proposed increases that are included in this plan, we still continue to have the lowest tuition of all of the UT components. Currently, we are the lowest, and even with these increases, we'll still continue to be the lowest. In the course of all of the hearings and meetings that we had, one of the things was very evident from students. They want to have the same services that other students at other universities have. They're willing to pay for some of that, but they have limitations. And time again, they said, we want the additional services, we can't pay for it all, so just move cautiously in how we move forward with increases to fund these needs. And so basically, we are being very judicious in our deliberations to take those small steps to continue to move forward in providing the services to students without pricing them out of a college education. And so we will have some increases beyond 2007, 2008, but again, we continue to have some of those smallest increases in incremental increases as compared to other universities. So we're basically only increasing whatever is absolutely necessary to keep up with enrollment increases and the needs for the services.
No, I think this is it's probably one of the hardest things for us to vote on is these increases. I think each one of us feels that this area is, and we all know that it's one of the hardest hit areas in the nation for struggling for financial security and just security in general, and providing homes and providing an education for this community. It is really difficult, and I commend you on going out for as many months as you did to go out to seek the student approval and their assistance in making this painful increase. It's really difficult, but everything that I see that you worked on are for good reasons. I know we need faculty. I know we need, I think we're put in using the funding to pay for the students, the student assistance, I think is obviously that helps our students. That's 20 more students will be able to get some extra funding, work funding. But it's still very difficult, and I know you keep telling us we're still the best deal in the state, and I feel we are. But it's very difficult for us to charge our students more, and I want the public to know that it's not easy for any of us, and it's not easy for you all. I know nobody wants to increase, but education is worth something, and I think obviously the students feel that what they're putting, for their effort that they're putting forth, their money they're putting forth is worth a great deal. And with that said, I will certainly support it.
Rosemary, did you touch on the statutory and the designated tuition increases?
The designated tuition increase that's being proposed, Chairman Gonzalez, is $12 per semester credit hour for 2007 and $6 for 2008. And that basically allows us to add the number of faculty We backed into that increase. It allows us to add the number of faculty that we need to keep up with the enrollment increases. And so that's the amount needed to fund the 33 new faculty and the supporting staff.
Would you also just inform the public the difference between statutory tuition and designated tuition?
The statutory tuition is the part of tuition that the legislature continues to manage, and so increases to that are basically dictated by the legislature. The designated tuition is the portion of tuition that was deregulated 3 years ago, and that's the portion that universities have had the ability to set out whatever amount is needed to fund their campus needs. And so that designated tuition before deregulation could not be greater than the statutory tuition. And now that designated amount is really what the amount at some campuses, that's twice the amount that you see at UT Brownsville. Our current designated tuition rate is $44 per semester credit hour. So we're proposing to go to $56 in 2007 and then $62 in 2008.
And could you just expand a little bit on the comparison between, let's say, Pan American University's proposed increases in tuition and our proposed increases?
Most of the other universities, and I'll talk in general terms because all of the fee proposals are in draft format and they haven't been approved. But even before this policy, most of the other universities were around the $90 range. Actually three UT campuses that were way behind the other campuses were UT Permian Basin, UT Brownsville, and UT Pan Am. UT Brownsville is at $44. Pan Am is currently at $46. They are proposing to go to $71. They're proposing a $25 increase. And so assuming that they get board approval to do that, then they will be at $71 compared to our $56 in 2007. And then they plan on having a smaller increase for 2008. I believe they're planning to go to $78 in 2008 compared to our $62.
So we're still within the lowest amount of tuition?
We'll still be the lowest
of
all the UT campuses.
What
yes.
about the fees? I mean, the proposed fees, I mean, do they, how do they compare with UT Pan Am or Odessa Permian Basin?
The fees are comparable. Mr. Oliveira, the difference that you see between us and Pan Am right now is that Pan American is working on a wellness rec center. They haven't begun to assess a fee for it yet. They will next year. We've already begun collecting the fee for our facility this fall. And so when they begin to collect their fee next year, they're going to jump ahead of us because of the increase that you see that they're proposing for designated tuition.
What about an athletics fee? They've had an athletics fee for a long
yes,
time.
Yes, other campuses have had, and in fact, some of the campuses have much greater dollar amounts. One of the things that all of the groups did in developing the data for their fee requests was to develop comparable information from all of the other campuses. And so the $1 that we're proposing from athletic fees is much, much below what other campuses have, those that have an athletic fee.
And this is the first time that I'm aware of that we've ever imposed an athletic fee, right?
Yes.
It's
I have to tell you that there weren't any fees that are in this policy document that didn't have student support. The students, they understand the need for advising. They basically view the amount that they have to pay for advising as an investment to completing their degree program appropriately. They don't want to take courses that they don't have to take, and they want to make sure that they have the appropriate degree plan and that they're working towards that. Athletics, they want those teams that they can cheer. They want to have the same, everybody's excited about what's happened to the Longhorns. Our students want to have teams that they can go and support and develop that team spirit over. The library, they want those hours. The designated tuition, which really is the one that we fund everything else with, when we presented the campus needs and all the background information, the students understood. They want to have those faculty members to teach their classes. And so the only caution coming from students was that, evaluate your needs and assess the amounts necessary to fund those needs. And remember that we can't support $25 increases like some of the other campuses have. And so really our true needs required that kind of an increase, a $25 increase, but we knew that our students couldn't pay for that. So we had a scaled recommendation coming forward.
I've got a comment and then a quick question. And to follow up with Mrs. Breedlove's comments, when I found out this issue was going to be on the agenda, it was the first time I'd have to make a decision like this, and I knew it'd be tough. But after seeing all that you all did and reading all the material that you all presented to the trustees to help make this decision, it really did help make my decision easier, because it reminded me that we're not a fallback institution. We're a first-rate institution, and these are just the decisions that need to be made to keep up with the growth and the goals that we have. So in doing everything that you did, it made me realize what had to be done, and I'm glad to hear that the students recognize that as well. And along those lines, my question is, are there programs out there for student assistance to help relieve them of some of the tuition fees?
Well, one of the programs, the Be On Time program that we touched on a little bit, is really a program that not many of our students have qualified for, because you have to be on time, meaning you have to finish in 4 years, or if you're working on an associate's degree, you have to finish in 2 years. More and more of our students are taking more semester credit hours. And so we've begun to identify those cohorts, because in essence, those students can get free tuition when all is said and done. And their GPAs are good. We've been evaluating their GPAs. We've been evaluating how well they do taking more semester credit hours. So the Be On Time program, we've only had a handful of students take advantage of that on our campus. We think that many more than that can. And so we're going to aggressively market and identify those students. So that's one that provides, in essence, the free tuition. There's still guaranteed student loans. We still have the same kind of scholarships that we continue to have and continue to set aside dollars. Currently, the university is matching STARS Foundation dollars in the form of scholarships, and the Board of Trustees sets aside $2.7 million a year in tuition scholarships that help students with that. So none of those things are going away, and whenever we have additional dollars to put towards scholarships, we do.
Is there also an incentive in the fees to try to attract the kids to come here and go straight through, 4 years straight through, instead of the 6 to 7 year time periods that it's been taking a lot of the kids to graduate in?
Well, the incentive is that it costs you less, and part of the strategy is to begin that campaign to identify those students. Now, some of our students can't go beyond the hours that they're currently taking because they have other commitments, family and children and work, and so they just can't do it, but others can. And so Dr. Ragland is heading up a retention and time to graduation committee. They've already, and Ruth Ann, do you want to touch on that?
Yes, we've identified 21 areas of 21 attributes of a successful UTP TSC student, and we're forming subcommittees on each one of those to study this in depth so that we can address this issue more thoroughly. One thing I wanted to mention that we have started is for this year, we started a student employment program where if a student will take 15 hours and work on campus in a position that will prepare them for their careers, or that will help in student retention by helping other students, they can be employed on campus for 20 hours a week if they take the 15 hours. And this is showing some success. And this encourages students to be full-time students, take 15, 16, 17 hours, and graduate earlier. So that's a real incentive program.
Dr. Ragland, what are the percentages of the students that are part-timers and full-timers as far as curriculum and courses carried at this time?
I think our part-timers are about 58% of our student body.
So we do
So
know.
we still have a majority of part-timers, but we're making some gains on that.
Yes, we are. And part-time is defined at 9 hours or less, or what is? 12 hours or less.
12 hours is considered a full-time student for financial aid purposes, but we want to encourage students to take 15 so they can get out of school more quickly and get into the workforce, benefit themselves and their families and the community.
And you know, by the nature of our community, we're always going to have that. I mean, you're going to have that part-time student who is taking the night classes because they have a full-time job and a family to support. But I think, you know, one of the things that we're seeing is we're starting to see those percentages balance. And the fact of the matter is, whether you're a full-time student or you're going to be a part-time student, is, you know, I think Dino's comments about, you know, the quality of an education, and everybody recognizes that, you know, everybody given a choice wants to get in here and finish it as quickly as they can, as affordably as they can. But the services need to be there. And I think that, you know, whether you're a part-time student or whether you're a full-time student, the benefits of having the services are going to be equally applicable. And one of the things, remember, our campus is open access too. That's another thing. We do not begin by trying to qualify a student saying you can't come here. And so while you're right, these are difficult. And remember, this is also part of our concordance policy. So these tuition fees are going to be assessed in 2007 and 2008. But the fact of the matter is that, you know, we are seeing that pendulum shift, and we are trying to do more to, you know, to become that university or that education institution that you will have that student who's going to devote and have the opportunity to devote as a full-time student and not necessarily have to leave this community to go elsewhere where they can do that. And our part-time students will benefit because the level of services will also increase for all students.
And I think in the 35 years that I've been around this college, the three you know, complaints I think you hear regularly from students. Parking, of course, is always at the top. It's getting we're hearing less complaints as we develop more parking, but classroom, you know, side or having classes available when you want them, it's a big complaint. And then, you know, counseling. I think, you know, over the years as a board member, I get more complaints from students. God, there's no counselors to help me. There's nothing more frustrating than taking a class that's not going to give you any credit towards your degree. And I see these fees, you know, taking, you know, or helping alleviate, you know, a lot of those problems and helping students out. And while they're, you know, of course they're hard, and, you know, and our students, you know, have a tougher time than most across the state whenever we have a fee increase. I see just tremendous benefits, you know, just from adding 10 advisors. I mean, God, that's going to help, you know, so much. And with the additional faculty as well, it'll give them more of an option. But I think you touched on one thing that's going to be important, is that we have to market this, and we got to start marketing it in high schools, and they got to know, because we're not going to break that mentality of coming and taking 9, 12 hours until they start seeing that, hey, it's to my economic advantage if I get in here, take a full load, and get out of here as quickly as possible.
And Mr. Oliveira, the advising fee will fund the development of what we believe will be best practices advising, and it'll also fund 10 peer advisors, meaning that those students that have figured out how to be on time and reduce time to graduation will also be counseling their peers. And so we think that that'll add another dimension to advising on campus that we haven't been able to fund in the past.
Our ratio now is about 1 to 600. This will reduce it to 1 to a little over 400. So
And thanks for the great work that the committees did to come up with this.
we might want to thank the Collegian for helping us with getting the word out to campus. The Collegian did an outstanding job in covering all the hearings, all the meetings. They sent a reporter to every one of the meetings, every one of the hearings, and they featured it on their pages so they could inform the student body. So we thank the Collegian for their good work in this.
Thank you very much, Rosemary. We appreciate it.
Happy to answer any other questions.
Anything else, guys? Thank you.
Again, as I had mentioned, these fees will be assessed in the 2007 and 2008 academic year, and as per our partnership concordance policy, they will go into effect. I think if, for the record, certainly the support from this trustees to approve these fees, and so I would make the motion that we do so.
I'll second.
Well,
you can affirm it. certainly
Again, I
with the
think it's
motion.
important to affirm it, even though the concordance policy would set them in.
Right.
But I think it'd be clear to everyone that, hey, we answered, we had the discussion, we deliberated, and we certainly understand the impact, but again, the benefits and certainly the work of the students and the work of all of those. And if we are going to build that world-class institution that we all see, and that our students deserve, then, like I said, I would certainly move that we reaffirm these policies.
Motion for affirmation of the tuition increase has been made by Mr. Campirano.
Second.
Second by Dr. Robles. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None. Any further discussion?
Well, just one other question. So then all these, the positions that these fees and the benefits they're going to create won't go into effect then to the 2000s, or they're going into effect next fall?
Beginning this coming fall.
This coming fall.
We'll begin
So
to-
even though we won't be assessing until 2007, 2008.
I'm sorry. They are fall of the following year,
Yes.
and
The fees will take effect in fall 2006 for that academic year, 06-07, and then 07-08.
so for those increases in faculty, for example, we'll begin to recruit faculty this spring for fall of this next academic
And
year.
I want everybody to get worked up over the women's soccer team and the men's soccer team as well.
2 points, if I might, in terms of the report. Of course, first of all, we appreciate very, very much the deliberative nature of the work that went on, the inclusive and broad-based meetings. Those were tough. I mean, people would come out of those meetings drained. Everybody, students, staff, faculty, administrators, because it's hard work to talk about personal needs and in front of folks and try to represent and be an advocate, an effective advocate for your constituents. And so they were civil, they were informative, where folks wanted more information. The next time the groups would learn and they would come back with additional information. There was trust. And so while the discourse was difficult, it was always a learning experience, and I do appreciate all of that and the recognition by this board of the work that went on. I also like to thank the board, though, for understanding and for the work that it takes ahead of time to be briefed and to go through these issues and then to make the decision that you made this evening. One more comment about the tuition. Changing it to 2 years makes it difficult this year, but it makes it easier, in fact, for the students in terms of predicting what their costs would be. And one of the biggest complaints is you don't know from year to year what it's going to cost you, and it's hard to plan, and we all need some sort of security in this world where rates fluctuate so abruptly often and are difficult to build budgets on. And so at least this tells a student through a couple of years ahead what the cost will be, and that planning can occur. And the final comment is that remember, when you're comparing tuitions at UTB with tuitions elsewhere, there's an additional factor that we've got to add, and that is relocating and transportation cost and cost of living expenses and cost of all of those things that occur for a student when they're not living at home. And that is in addition to all of the costs here, whether their fees are designated or statutory tuition. And often they're overlooked when we only compare tuition and fees. So we are trying, I think, everything we can to maintain cost, increase services, increase programs, and at the same time, as David mentioned and others, the word needs to get out not only to parents, not only to students, but to parents, because parents can be very helpful in nudging students through Employers can be helpful if they help share the cost with students, or if they provide flexibility in work schedules that allow students to take more hours. So we're going to try and market this not only internal to the community of the university, but to students, parents, employers, and anywhere else we can to try and get the word out. So we thank you very, very much.
Chairman, that concludes the report of the Business Affairs Partnership Committee.
Motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Garcia. We move on to item number 5, the bond projects update. Dr. Renaud, Ms. Veronica Mendez, our VP of Construction.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a reminder, and especially for our viewing audience, thanks is appropriate for the resources provided by the bond issue. We have 7 building projects in the planning stage, either completed or planned. These projects will help us meet the needs of our growing enrollment in music education, early childhood development, kinesiology education, biomedical research, libraries, classrooms, and parking. And while we are eager to get to the groundbreaking stage, some of the most important work actually occurs now, during the planning stage. We are pleased to report that the programs for most of the projects are at least 75% complete. As a reminder, it is during the programming that we determine what actually goes into these buildings. For example, how many classrooms, how many labs, their sizes, etc. We will conduct final reviews of the programs for each facility with their respective Campus Advisory Committee, also known as the CAC, early in the new year. We will then schedule meetings of the Board Bond Advisory Committees, or BBACs, by mid-January. We just cannot say enough positive things about the participation from the Campus Advisory Committees and the Board Bond Advisory Committees. You remember that these committees are made up of students, faculty, staff, trustees, and community members. Their participation has been excellent and very productive. We know it takes a lot of their energy and time. We wish to thank all the members of these committees for their continued support. Without them, we simply could not plan and design these important facilities. And of course, our construction office, which includes Ms. Mendez and Broadus and Associates, is doing a great job of coordinating and leading this effort. I'll now ask Ms. Veronica Mendez, our Assistant Vice President for Construction, to give us an update on the architect selection process for these projects.
Thank you, Dr. Renaud. About 4 weeks ago, we issued requests for proposals for architectural firms to participate in the design for the bond projects. The deadline for submitting responses was December 14th. We're pleased to report today that a total of 26 responses were received from different architectural firms from all over the state. We identified 5 groups of projects in the request for proposals, and we asked each firm to tell us for which projects they wanted to be considered. We will be considering anywhere from 15 to 18 architectural firms for each group. Staff will be evaluating the responses received over the next few weeks, and we will be inviting firms to participate in interviews late in January and early in February. Depending on the evaluation results, we anticipate to have anywhere from 3 to 5 firms for each project group. We will be sending a schedule to the Board Bond Advisory Committees early in January to invite them to participate in the interviews. We anticipate to have a recommendation to the Board of Trustees in February at the board meeting. We are very pleased to have such a large pool of participants in the response and to be able to choose from many qualified firms from all over the state, and look forward to evaluating the responses and interviewing the firms in the next couple of months. That concludes my report.
So things are really on a fast track, aren't they?
Oh, yes.
They're moving extraordinarily well. Mr. Chairman, I just need for you all to know by this news that Veronica just shares with us means that for each of those projects, we will have from 15 to 18 choices to make for architect. In addition, the caliber of the architects is wonderful. I just reviewed the list myself this afternoon, and And there are a couple of new ones on there that we've been trying to get to bid on our projects for a while, and for whatever reason they had not been able to. And they're in the groupings to bid. So not only do we have firms that we've known before and we've worked with, but we have some other ones that have particular expertise in some of the areas that we'll now be building and we haven't gotten to know. So wonderful work on the part of Diana Gonzalez and Gilbert Gallegos and Veronica Mendes and John in making all of that.
Thank you.
Is that all, Dr. Renaud? Okay, thank you. Item number 6 is Dr. Garcia's report to the board.
Yes, sir. I have a couple of items to report to you. Chess was not the only exciting thing going on our campus over the last few weeks. We've been talking to you about this being the year of physics because of the anniversary of 100th year of Einstein's
Theory of relativity.
Theory of relativity. Thank you. And they keep sending me books with hopes that I'll read them and become smarter, but not yet happened. I'll probably be in the class soon. But we have the marvelous pleasure of having on our campus these physicists right now. There are from a variety of different countries, and I have a kind of let's see, somewhere here I have the countries that they're from, but there are over 96 physicists on our campus. They are from Germany, from England, from Scotland, from Japan, from Italy, from France, and of course from the United States. And the United States includes folks from MIT and Berkeley and Caltech. So it is a highly select group. We went to greet them at their opening session in our new lecture hall over in Education and Business Complex, and I've never seen a group of more serious folks in all my life. I mean, and each one had their own laptop. And I'm sure we were interfering with the agenda. I did not understand the agenda well. I understood the map about where they were to go for their breakfast and to their lunch, but just the titles of the work that they're doing is extraordinary. And so we are very, very proud of the efforts of Dean Macari, the College of Science, Engineering, and Technology, Dr. Mario Diaz, Dr. Manuela Campanelli, who has spearheaded so much of this, and of our own students. We have one of our students who's now doing his doctorate at UT Dallas, who was a part of this program. Started out here at UT Brownsville in physics. So they're all learning from each other, and we all are the beneficiaries. So my congratulations to all the physicists. Be nice to these folks when you see them around on campus. They'll be here all the way through Saturday. We have stars, obviously, in many different arenas. I'm sorry, Dr. Robles, you missed two of our stars tonight before you came, the chess team and Sandish the Kerr that was here earlier, and with his film and his skills. We have another one in our midst, and that's Dr. Emir Makati. And let me tell you why I can say that. Dr. Makati, as you know, their academies in science are considered a very important achievement, and to be invited into the Academy of Science for Engineering, etc., is quite the penultimate in recognition. Well, Dr. Makati has been recognized by the National Academy of Science in Mexico. It is a great honor to be valued in this way as a contributor toward the advancement of science. I know it opens up doors for him, but it also opens up doors for our university. Dr. Makati, please stand and let us... Dr. Martin was busy, has been busy, of course, as he always is, but this time traveling to Washington, D.C., and with good reason, because right outside of Washington, D.C. is the Goddard Space Center. Now, the Goddard Space Center is home to the nation's largest organization of combined scientists and engineers dedicated to learning and sharing their knowledge of the Earth, the solar system, and the universe. And the mission of the Goddard Space Flight Center is to expand knowledge of the Earth and its environment, of the solar system, and of the universe through observations from space. So now you've heard it is the largest organization of scientists and physicists. So when you want, as Mrs. Garland used to say, when you're looking for shade, go to a big tree. So we were looking for some shade here, but in the area of physics. So we went to the biggest tree we could find, and that's the Goddard Space Center. So what happened there was that Dr. Martin, along with Dr. Diaz, who was there with you, signed a memorandum of understanding between UT Brownsville, Texas Southmost College, and NASA Goddard on Monday, December the 8th. The agreement allows for interpersonnel act type of assignments for their senior scientists, or short-term assignments for some other less senior ones, and for our students to do work on their dissertation at Goddard. It also serves as an umbrella for future grants. So when you do collaboration, it's not a bad partner to have. There are 6 of the researchers from Goddard that who will be initiating the process to become adjunct faculty in our physics department, and who will be available to direct the research of our students. It is a steep climb constantly to keep up with you, Dr. Martin, and with Dr. Diaz and Dr. Macari. We are all honored that you have chosen our place to do your important work. Thank you. We have been taking kids to the movies for several years now. This is our 10th year, and 2 nurses from Brownsville, Doug Bess and Beatriz Van Olen, Beatriz, who is now a member of our nursing faculty, recognized that several of their child-age patients who are severely physically or emotionally handicapped had never been to a real movie, or to the mall, actually. So they have gathered support, and working with BISD, every year they gather up kids and gather up some money, and they take about 40 kids to see a Christmas movie. We have now gotten involved in this. The project is now developed and conducted by a group called Kids at the Movies, CAM. And it involves faculty and students from our EMT program, representatives from nursing programs, from BISD, from hospitals, and other community members. The committee begins to meet early fall, gather some money, and then takes kids to the movies. Over 1,000 children have gone to the movies as a result of their efforts. This year they saw Chicken Little, and apparently just had a wonderful time. It is a beautiful way to celebrate Christmas and the holidays and the special nature of these children. We thank you again. Our licensed vocational nurses took their exam. It's an important exam to take because it measures their abilities as they exit the program. There were 19 eligible students who took this exam, and the pass rate was 100%. Congratulations to all of the nursing faculty, to Dr. Eldon Nelson, to Dr. Catherine Doherty, the chair of that department.
I would like to bet that they all have a job as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Probably before they graduate, unfortunately. We have another, we have many stars on this campus, but I see him here tonight. And this is David Pearson. In the early morning of September the 1st, 1983, Korean Airlines Flight 007, a 747 jumbo jet with 269 passengers, including a U.S. congressman, straight off course into Soviet airspace over sensitive military installations. The Soviet interceptors were scrambled and the plane was shot down, killing all aboard. The incident quickly escalated into one of those serious confrontations of the Cold War and remains that era's greatest unsolved mystery. The Soviets claimed that Flight 007 was a spy plane. The Americans said the plane accidentally went off course without U.S. knowledge. David Pearson, our professor in sociology in the behavioral sciences department, our first professor to be a Yalie, and this year, of course, the president of our academic senate, was the key investigator into that incident and the foremost critic of the Reagan administration's official version of the events. In a series of articles, media appearances, and finally in a book, he advanced the argument that a great deal more happened that night than an innocently civilian airliner straying off course, unknown to U.S. intelligence. On Thursday, December the 22nd, at 8 p.m., Professor Pearson appears in Secrets of the Black Box, Flight 007, a History Channel documentary exploring the evidence for what happened to Flight 007 that night in the skies over Soviet Far East. Dr. Pearson, as you know, is also host of Society Under Fire. Dr. Pearson, would you please stand and be recognized? And with your permission, we'll invite Dr. Pearson to come back and be one of our programs to brief you later on so that we can. Our final announcement has to do with commencement. And that is, sometimes we wonder about, do our students ever make it through? And I met a student today in the bookstore, and she was trying on her robe. And so we kind of hugged for a minute, and I said, or she said to me, it took me 20 years, but I'm going to graduate. Well, we can talk about be on time all you want, but we also have to congratulate persistence, and she told me the story of having left and come back and had babies and all. So while our students sometimes take longer than the traditional student, many of them finally do graduate to the great benefit of themselves and their families. As a matter of fact, this winter we have the largest winter commencement ever. It is 1,155 students that are candidates for graduation. Now, about half of them are signed up to come to our commencement this Saturday. There are some special students. 3 of them are going to be receiving the very first degrees in communications. Remember, we started a communication degree just a few years ago. These kids are hot shots, and they're going to be the next newscaster. You heard them at your last meeting here. We also have the first mathematics master's graduates this year. Our commencement is going to be outside. And we are very pleased with that, the guidance that was given by our board chair. And I say that because it's predicted to rain on Saturday, but undaunted, we go forward we believe it's going to be a light rain, if at all. But beyond that, we've made lots of provisions for helping folks. But we do ask for all of those who come to have patience with those things we cannot control, and to join us on that very, very special day. Jacob Brown will be open for those, and it'll be live webcast there for folks who would be more comfortable inside. And also 2 of the large lecture halls in the Life and Health Sciences building will be open and available for webcast. So if you see folks around, or if you hear folks worried about it, that's the way it'll be. The decision to do it outside is a smart one. Even when we split up commencement, we have to turn people away. Every winter commencement, even though we've had 3 commencements back to back, we've had to turn folks away, and there's nothing worse than having to do that. So you'll be comfortable for the most part in your robes, because it'll be warm, and you'll be warm if it gets cool outside. But we ask you to come and enjoy what's always just a wonderful event. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. Dr. Robles, you have a question?
No, I just wanted to enjoy your reports, Dr. Garcia, and pick up a lot of ideas. And the one about the children being taken to the movies, a lot of times it's their first time ever. I'd like for them to, the committee to explore also to taking them to live theater at the Camille. Some of them have never, a lot of the children in Brownsville don't even know we have a fantastic theater in Brownsville. And I think that's enjoying and experiencing live theater. It also takes it into a different dimension. And I'd be glad to connect the committee members with the people at the Camille to see if they can arrange the kids to go to see some performance.
Wonderful. That's
this
a great
winter,
idea.
right after Christmas, is going to be The Beauty and the Beast, and that's a great show for the children. So
great idea. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Robles. Okay, proposed meetings for the Board of Trustees are January the 18th of next year, February the 16th, March 23rd, April 13th, and of course, upcoming events. This Friday, we have the Student Union Architectural Award in McAllen at 7 p.m. And of course, as Dr. Garcia informed the board, that we have commencement this Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning at the Student Union building. With the sad note to end our meeting, I was informed of the passing of Mr. Manuel Hernandez recently. For those who knew him, he was a strong advocate for reform in all areas of government, city, county, and also education. And he was a gentleman that would always come to the meetings wearing khaki pants and possibly a guayabera. And I know that the last time I saw him, he was, I believe, part of the Features Commission. And so he was always wanting to